How's it going? Welcome back, my wonderful wise ones, to a great video today because we are finally discussing Borderlands 4. Yes, it's that time yet again where we have awoken from hypersleep. Because this feels like a goddamn jump back in time. Takes me back to my high school days, because that's when I was kind of introduced to Borderlands with the first game, and then of course Borderlands 2 being super popular. Now, Borderlands 4 is shaping up to be one of the most interesting Borderlands games to date, I would say. But the real question, for me especially, is if it's going to be enough to pull in old players like myself. I think that Borderlands 4, this is the definitive Borderlands experience. This is a clear attempt by Gearbox to basically, welcome new players into this franchise, get the new generation in, as it were, because people like me, close to 30 or whatever, maybe not all of us are, interested in Borderlands anymore. Maybe we feel that we've outgrown the series. I do have those thoughts now and then, so I'm very curious to see if Borderlands 4 will be enough to pull me back in. And I don't think I'm the only one. I made a video discussing the whole history of the Borderlands games, going from the beginning to where it is now, going through each and every Borderlands games, even the Telltale Series 1, which was great narratively. And a lot of people fell off after Borderlands 3 because they felt that it just wasn't what Borderlands was originally. The peak of Borderlands was always Borderlands 2, let's be honest. That's what most people believe. But you can have your own preference. I actually like the pre-sequel a lot as well.
I can actually see why you'd want to tear that particular statue down. Clearly you're illiterate, and the image of me enjoying a good book just makes your head hurt something awful.
Now, I truly hope that Borderlands 4 is special. From everything that I've seen, it does seem to be doing a lot of new stuff, as well as the classic Borderlands gameplay that we all know. So today, I want to discuss the Borderlands 4 reviews, talk about, my opinion, my raw opinions on this game, my impressions so far from what I've actually seen and played as well, and basically talk about if Borderlands 4 reviews are going to be goated or if this is going to be another missed opportunity and basically the death of the franchise. Because if this is another Borderlands 3 situation, I don't think they're coming back from that. I think that, that's why they're going all in on this game, to truly, try and keep Borderlands alive. So it's a very interesting game, to say the least. So I just want to discuss, what people are saying about this game, how it's shaping up to be, discuss the previews and stuff like that, like give you some context as, what's actually being said about this game, because there's a lot of sponsored content, okay? And as a content creator, I can tell you this, because I don't like to, lie to you guys. I like to be as transparent as possible with my channel and with content. And honestly, gaming in general has just become quite toxic in some instances and quite disgusting because it's become part of marketing. It's quite obvious that YouTubers and all this kind of stuff, it's part of marketing. When a video is sponsored by the game itself, even if it's your favorite Jimmy Beast YouTuber, it's very unlikely that you're going to be getting 100% transparent opinions about the game. So I just want to discuss, what's going on with this game and discuss what the final Borderlands 4 reviews are going to be. I'm going to be dropping my early review very shortly, I think tomorrow or something like that, to look at the early access and all that kind of stuff, because that's what I always do to keep you informed and up to date before, the marketing gets the better of you. So I do hope you enjoy this video, my wise ones. Now, before we get into this Borderlands 4 reviews discussion video, I simply ask that you do subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, it would mean a great deal to me. If you love early reviews, deep analysis on video games, and philosophical content, I blend them all together on this channel to create a community of intellectual gamers, which is very, very rare, I know. So become one of them, become a wise one, think for yourself, and give the video a like, subscribe. It really does mean more than you know, because I'm trying so hard to make this channel full-time. I put everything that I am into this. It's only fun because of you guys, interacting with you guys. So sound off in the comments and let's get on with the video.
Let's go already!
So the good thing about this Borderlands 4 game, I would say, is, like I said, it is targeting new people, okay? So you're not going to be seeing many returning characters. There are, of course, returning characters, but it's not like you need to play the whole saga like I did, 1, 2, the pre-sequel, all the spin-offs, the Telltale series, to get into this game. And honestly, the story is a little bit, all over the place at this point because it's not Pandora anymore. You're, exploring a planet that's basically been crashed into. So it does have a lot of interesting ideas, but the main premise of the bad guy in this, which is still better than the last game, of being content creators, it's basically, a cyborg gone crazy who has mind control. So not exactly the most original thing, but let's be honest, Borderlands has never been about the story itself, the greater world. It's nicely designed, but honestly, what makes Borderlands special is the gameplay and good quality characters, like in Borderlands 2, with Handsome Jack, the original cast members. It's the group of characters that make Borderlands special. Also, sometimes that dark, over the top slapstick humor, which went overboard with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, I think, and the third game, where it became very cringeworthy, and basically it became meme writing 101, which a lot of RPGs are doing today. Obsidian, as much as I loved them before, just a lot of writers now are kind of playing into that internet meme culture. And honestly, we don't really want games, uh, you know, becoming slop fests when it comes to writing. We want good narratives to actually be within the universe. At least I do. I can't speak for everyone. Some people like it, I guess. So like I said, I won't really talk about all of my main points because you have to watch my review for that. But basically, what does feel differently about Borderlands this time around, I would say, is the big thing is movement, okay? Traversal is going to be so much more crazy. I can, tell you that straight away. It feels very good to actually move around. There's a double jump off the bat. There's gliding mechanics, dashing mechanics. They've even built in like this climbing system where you can actually climb up certain buildings and all that kind of stuff. They've got a grapple hook from Halo Infinite or something like that where you can sling barrels at the enemies and stuff like that. So it just feels way more on the go. You're not just standing in place. And obviously Borderlands was never like a cover-based shooter, but this just makes it feel even better. And a big thing that I've noticed so far, and a lot of previews will say this as well, it is the bosses. The bosses aren't just bullet sponges anymore. They actually have, great level design to them, awesome mechanics, and this to me could be the make or break it thing, because if you're going into a dungeon, clearing out a vault, or whatever side activity, and then the boss battle at the end is satisfying, and then you get good loot at the end of it, then what more do you want? That is exactly what a loot shooter should be able to do, and Borderlands originally did that so well, and now they're adding even more to it, so it really does keep me optimistic as long as they don't overboard. As long as the writing isn't overboard and too in your face, and it lets you soak in the atmosphere and just have a good time with your buddies, this could be a big win. There's a lot here, but like I said, please watch my Borderlands 4 review, which is coming very soon, to, go into the deep positives and negatives with my early access stuff. So now I just want to talk about what the state of this game actually is, because this is running on the Unreal Engine 5, and if you don't know, I absolutely hate the Unreal Engine 5. Most people do if you've got a brain. A lot of games use this now because it's kind of pre-made and easy for developers to access, and it can be a very good engine if they utilize it well. But the problem is most games suck at optimization in modern day gaming, and luckily it does feel smooth, but I do feel like some of that original art style is missing. It looks a little bit more smoothed over, graphically very nice, but again, this is what happens when you use Unreal. Some of the art style is always lost because most games using Unreal look similar, for good graphical fidelity, nice lighting, but it all just looks very silky. Now, if you want to know what I'm talking about, just simply look back at Borderlands 1 and 2 compared to this. It's very different. Also, it's just sad that games today aren't using, um, designs that used to make them interesting, special, that older games used to use, like in Far Cry, Borderlands 1 and 2, the pre-sequel, like Phys X, and stuff like that, having cool effects and stuff like that, which we can easily have on modern day consoles. But gaming today is kind of become a little bit lazy when it comes to the art style and just pre-made assets. They want to get it in there quickly, and it just loses some of that uniqueness that some of the older Borderlands games have, in my opinion. Also, I will say this time around, there is so much diversity to the classes. It's quite crazy because the skill tree isn't just a single skill tree now for, whatever character that you pick. Basically, you get to choose, what ability you want to, focus on, and that ability itself has its own giant skill tree, which is crazy. So it's going to add a lot of replayability. So the characters this time around are even more interesting, I would say, because they all play very differently. You could even play the same character, but one would be totally different compared to, your buddies or something like that. So that's very cool to me. So now I just quickly want to discuss some of the, marketing behind this game and stuff like that. Now, a lot of people have brushed over the fact that they are heavily using AI for the gun generation and stuff like that, which I'm fine with because they're adding new cool mechanics to it, which I'll discuss in my Borderlands 4 review. But it does take away some of the, kind of charm of having things a little bit more hands-on and hands-crafted. I know Borderlands has always used some form of computer generation when it comes to, getting the guns out there because there's just too many of them. But at this point, it's going to be a kind of crazy mashup, which I think is going to add to the gameplay, but it might take away some of the uniqueness factor of, the original branded weapons that we had in the Borderlands universe. So it's only, only time will tell how that actually plays out because that's more late game stuff. Just talking about the Borderlands marketing, okay, like I said, I've seen so much content. I might sound like I'm bitter that I didn't get, sponsored by Borderlands to discuss this game. Honestly, I'm not because I want to talk about this game anyway. I'm very interested in Borderlands, and that would be quite surprising because usually my sponsors are more double A, less triple A, as of right now, until my channel gets bigger, I guess. But I wouldn't, just like talk about a game without giving my honest opinions anyway. Now, to me, some of the marketing material that I've seen, from other content creators and just what they're putting out there in general, just seems to be a little bit like limiting in the fact that stuff that you can talk about, stuff that you can't talk about, and being simply overly positive. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. There's a lot to love about this game, but I just hope that it's going to be a little bit more transparent because a lot of people, it's clear it's clear that Borderlands want players back. They know they messed up with the third game. It does feel like they have actually listened to feedback, but there's a lot of changes this time around, which I'm excited for. But at the same time, it also feels a little bit desperate with their marketing strategy, and basically the coverage that I've seen is not completely transparent, is what I'm trying to say. It's not a bad thing necessarily because, some people might just be super positive about this game, but it just doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about some of the issues of Borderlands 4, which always gets me a little bit worried, which, like I said, I will be talking about shortly. So overall, I don't want to sound like I'm, negative towards Borderlands 4. In fact, I'm very excited for this. I really hope that Borderlands 4 succeeds because I'm really excited for this. But at the same time, when I compare it to other, franchises like Call of Duty or something like that, at least Borderlands is trying. Borderlands is doing something different. And although, it might be that I've kind of outgrown the series in some ways, especially like the writing and stuff. That's why I'm very excited to see. That's why I'm very excited to see what they do this time around. I just feel like they are at least trying new, unique ideas, and from everything that I have seen, I'm actually very optimistic because it does look really good. But there are concerning things, okay, like the bloat in this game. I don't think people truly understand how giant this game is, and personally, I can't speak for everyone, everyone's different. I'm very burnt out on giant, absolutely giant, seamless open world games, and this is going to be a very hefty one. Now, it all depends on exploration, which I'll touch on in my Borderlands 4 review, but I just think I'm very, skeptical about this game because I'm very excited for what it can be for a certain player base, but maybe not necessarily, it's going to recapture my love of Borderlands like when I was a teenager. And that might just be my own personal bias. I'm being honest. I just want to share my opinions, honestly. Everyone's feeling different, but the game itself does look good. It is shaping up to, you know, the things that I have seen, it's shaping up to be a very good Borderlands game, and perhaps that's all that we need. So I do think that the reviews for Borderlands 4 are going to be very positive, actually. I think this is going to hit, high 80s on Metacritic, maybe even 90. I think that this could be the definitive Borderlands game if they nail the story and if the open world content itself doesn't feel like a chore. That's the big thing. So that's just simply what I wanted to discuss today. What the, discussion is around Borderlands 4 and the Borderlands 4 reviews, what they are shaping up to look like. So let me know what you think down below in the comments, my wise ones, and I'll be seeing you very shortly. So have a great day, my wise ones. Thank you so much again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace out.